Every day you and I get bombarded with negative news. Just like the body becomes what we eat, the mind becomes what we're putting in. It is important to listen to stories that not only gives you hope, but also inspires you and uplifts you. In this podcast, we're interviewing experts who will break down the solutions to the world's most pressing problems. And I promise you, if you listen to this podcast, you will not only stay informed, but you will also feel more energy in your life. Welcome to Great.com Talks with. Great.com is a philanthropic project where we're donating 100% of the profit towards the most effective cause areas like protecting the rainforest, funding climate change technology. And if you want to help us in that mission, the best thing that you can do is to subscribe to this channel. The topic of today is animal welfare. And to understand more about that, we invited Nancy Urban from Animal Welfare Association. I want to say welcome, Nancy, to this interview.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great, Nancy. When you think about animal welfare, what problems do you see, and which of those problems are you trying to solve at Animal Welfare Association?
Well, here in New Jersey, the Animal Welfare Association's mission is to eliminate animal suffering, promote the importance of the human-animal bond, and improve the role of animals and the well-being of people. So it's not so much that we focus on, pet overpopulation or investigating cruelty and abuse and enforcing animal control laws. Our adoption center is a little bit different. We focus on not just the animal aspect, but also how the animals are so important to the lives of people.
Are you saying if we educate people to take better care of animals, that would help end animal suffering?
Correct. And it would also hopefully bring an end to pet overpopulation as well. It really does all stem from education, knowledge.
Then how do we create that kind of how do we educate people on how to create those human-animal bonds?
Here with our organization, we carry out that mission through a variety of programs that we have here. So we not only are an adoption center where we're doing pet adoptions, obviously right there, we're promoting the importance of the human-animal bond right there. But we also have a low-cost clinic. So the people in the community can all come and use that to keep their pets healthy by getting them their vaccinations and getting them spayed or neutered. So we also do it that way. We also have a few programs about pet retention. So enabling people to keep their pets if they're facing financial crisis. We have pet food pantry to help them out with food. If they need resources for pet-friendly housing, we can also help them with that. If they need assistance for maybe a particular behavior that they've encountered with their pet, which is causing them to consider, possibly relinquishing the pet, we have a behavior department that can help them with some training, with some behavior modification, and help them through that. So that's the way we work through the pet retention. We also have pet therapy programs. So these are programs pre-COVID that existed for the senior community as well as for any residential housing, group housing, I should say. So not just the senior care facilities, but also the group home facilities for different demographics of people, where we would take shelter animals or previously adopted animals in to places that don't have the capacity to own a pet and give them that experience of what it's like to handle a pet, learn about them, interact with them, because studies do show that does bring a tremendous amount of benefit to our health. So that's another way that we do that. We also have summer camp for kids. So if kids want to come and learn more about the animals and what our mission is and what we do here, there's that as an avenue that they can take. And we also have a very large volunteer and foster program. So we have volunteers, several hundred volunteers.
No, so I think we lost the connection there.
And assist us in carrying out the mission. And our foster families also will be those that take in the animals that can't be housed here at the shelter, or that we need help with. Maybe they need a little break from being in the shelter, and they'll foster them for a few weeks until they find a home. So those are just some of the avenues that we do to carry out our mission.
That helps to understand all the different programs. You're saying that you have an adoption center where people would leave, people actually surrender their animals. Tell us more about why would someone surrender their pet to an adoption center?
We see a lot of varying reasons, from moving to allergies, to maybe they're not getting along with the animals in the home. Maybe there's been a bite history. Sometimes there might be something medically, wrong with the pet, that they can't afford that care. Or maybe they've fallen on hard times and they can't, for whatever reason, afford to continue to care for that pet. So those are some of the reasons that they surrender them.
And what is it? Because if I understand correctly, one of the best things that we can do to prevent animals from harm in this sector would be to help people to not surrender their pets. What is it that you would like to tell people who are struggling with their pets right now?
To investigate your options first. If you're committed to your pet and you really care for your pet, there's always an organization or a group of people who will do what they can to help you retain it. You just have to look, and sometimes it takes a little digging to get that help that you need, but there are resources out there. All you have to do is locate them and ask for assistance.
Then let's say that someone do want to keep their pet. It's just a struggle. How can you make them? Is there things that people don't understand about the pets that makes it into a struggle that people even would want to
absolutely
consider? Okay.
Absolutely. There's a lot of times folks have unrealistic expectations of what pet ownership is like. Everybody wants the perfectly trained animal right off the bat. Everyone wants that, they have a preconceived notion of what pet ownership is going to be like, kind of idealized, for lack of a better word. And when it doesn't in reality turn out that way, that turns a lot of people off. So I would say the best thing to do prior to obtaining a pet is do your due diligence and research. Look for the animal that best suits you and your lifestyle, and not go by that cute fuzzy face. Don't go by looks right off the bat. Different breeds have different characteristics and different energy levels and different needs, just like different people have different energy levels and different needs. And you want to make sure you find a pet that's going to best match what you anticipate, as well as what you can provide for the other pet. So I think that's a lot of misconception there is, people fall in love with what the dog looks like off the bat. Maybe everyone thinks that, Jack Russells are the cutest breed ever, that they're just adorable and they're going to be the smartest, and they're going to be, this little couch potato that's going to snuggle on the couch and, come automatically trained, like Wishbone from back in the day on PBS. And when in reality, they take that puppy home or that adult home and they realize that this is a terrier. This dog's got energy. This dog needs to be kept busy. They're used to, they were bred to do hunting, to ferret out rats and things from, the farms. So they always had a job. It's not the type of dog who you're just going to be able to take home and, it's just going to be okay with going out in the backyard to go potty and coming into the house to hang out. It's going to need a job. It's going to need to have both mental and physical enrichment to make them a happy pet. So the best rule of thumb is you're only going to get out of a pet what you put in.
You're saying to have the more in-tuned expectations. One word that I'm getting into my mind right now is misbehavior. That me as a pet owner might think that my cat is misbehaving, but I would not say that about my child. I will not say that my child is misbehaving if it cries because it wants food. So how can we understand the pets? What is it that we're missing when it comes to understanding the needs of the pets?
I think just understanding how pets communicate to us. Cats, for instance, have been probably one of the most misunderstood animals for quite some time. There's not been a whole lot of, up until recently, there's not been a lot of explanation into what cats are really about. People just kind of figure a cat is a cat. This cat's nasty, this cat's nice. It really depends on the cat. And if you can understand the body language of an animal, a cat in general, and what they're telling you, that's really half the battle. They do try to communicate with us the only way they know how. A lot of that is, believe it or not, a slow blink from a cat as they're looking at you. It means that they're content in your presence and that they're relaxed. It's a very slow blink. A cat that swishes its tail from side to side is a cat that's agitated, possibly getting angry, getting ready to, either swat or bite. Everyone knows the generic sign of, an animal with a tail tucked means fear. But let's look at, a cat whose ears are pinned back and it's shrinking away and it's trying to make itself smaller. It's trying to disengage from what's going on. And if that's misunderstood and you see that as, oh, that's just a scared kitty, let me go and make it feel better, you could then get the next response from the animal, which could be that swat, that hiss. And then, our first reaction is, oh, that's not a nice cat. No, it's okay. The cat is doing what cats do. It's trying to communicate to you. You didn't pick up on the first, second, and third cues. So it was left with the fourth one of, hissing or swatting at you. So I think just understanding body language and the communication that animals are trying to do with us is a huge part of pet ownership.
I can see that. I remember when I grew up, I had a cat, and I could get annoyed because it always wanted to go in and out, or it wanted food so often, and I didn't want to take that responsibility. So then eventually the cat actually started to bite me, and then I kind of justified why I would not then care so much about the cat. So I guess the violence came from my own ignorance of seeing those signs, which I guess I was projecting that the animal was actually deserving to get that punishment from me.
Right. A lot of times people, unfortunately they do that when, sometimes we'll see that with a surrender. It could be something going on in the house, or maybe, the folks just don't have the time to care for the pet anymore, which is fine. That's what we're here for. But you'll see that, as in, oh, this dog is just awful, he's not trained. Or, well, if he's not trained, whose responsibility was that? That responsibility is the owner. That's like saying, my child has bad manners and it's the neighbor's fault. No, if your child has bad manners, it's because you didn't teach it. I don't know where the thought process comes from sometimes, that people just think that an animal should learn things through osmosis. Like they just should automatically be born with knowing how to sit down, being housebroken, taking food gently. No, these are all things that have to be trained and taught to an animal. So a little patience goes a long way.
And that's a very helpful mindset. I wish I would have had that growing up. And if people would look up your website, they would actually find that if you can go to awanj.org, Animal Welfare Association. They would find that your adoption center is a no-kill adoption center. Could you help us understand what does that mean and what's the difference?
Sure. What no kill is described as is that, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to describe it, is that 90%, that you have at least a 90% save rate. which means that at least 90% of the animals that come through your door leave alive. So only 10% or less are euthanized. For us, we're at a 97% save rate. So only 3% of our total population at some point in time have been euthanized. Not every shelter has that luxury. I'd have to say for us in the county that we live in, which is Camden County, New Jersey. So it's a small portion of New Jersey, that all of the shelters in this area are considered no kill. And that's solely based on that percentage rate. It doesn't mean that we never euthanize. We're certainly not going to watch an animal suffer from cancer or from some other type of illness or disease that we can't treat. So obviously we would euthanize in those situations. And also if a dog or cat is extremely aggressive and not able to be handled appropriately or safely.
Nancy, I think you disappeared there again. There is something with the connection here. So in the meanwhile, while Nancy comes back.
No, I'm back.
Okay, perfect.
So what did you hear up until the?
We heard most of it. So if you summarize
Okay.
towards the end.
So just to summarize?
Yeah, if you summarized.
Okay, so so no kill is not necessarily meaning that no animal is ever euthanized. It just means that it's a very small percentage of the population of the animals that we deal with. So that's a huge thing to be very proud of.
And I guess leaving your animal towards an adoption center is not what what the mission would be, or what we're looking to create in society. So can you help us understand how would you like to see society taking responsibility to improve the quality of animals' lives?
I think in general it would be to get involved. I mean, that's how society as a whole could definitely benefit the animals. If you can't volunteer in a shelter, you can't own a pet, volunteer. If you can't volunteer, donate. If you can't donate, look for doing other things. Not everyone can monetarily donate, and that's not necessarily what I mean, but I mean donation of goods. So everyone has towels and blankets in their house that aren't being used, or maybe that have seen better days. Those types of things can be donated as well, that go a long way in helping shelter animals. So there's always something. So you can get involved even if you don't like, particularly maybe you have horrible allergies and you can't have a pet and you can't volunteer in the shelter. You could possibly get involved in doing fundraising activities. We've had groups do, I've said this before, pub crawls, which is a group of folks that get together. They pay one fee for the driver and a couple of bucks extra as the fundraiser part of it. And they get driven from pub to pub to, in, let's say, in honor of the shelter, but it's also in making money to do that. We have a senior population that knits us these little blankies for the cats and dogs. There's just so many different avenues for people to get involved with. Like I said, if you can't volunteer or foster and you can't donate, then you can attend an event. You can, make some things, collect household items that would be useful for the shelter that's local to you. There's always something that can be done, even on the smallest scale.
Now, so we are about to come to the end in this interview, and I want to give you the opportunity to kind of end this. If you have a specific message that you want to leave us with, is there anything you want to empathize?
What I would say is for folks to visit our website, which is awanj.org, and visit your local shelters. See how you can get involved. Check out your local animal shelter's website. See what they're up to, what their mission is about. Do they align with what you believe in? If so, get involved.
Nancy, thank you very much for taking the time to clarify what the work you are doing in New Jersey and what you kind of see as being needed.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me.